Hale. How are you, sir?
I'm doing incredibly well. It's a beautiful Mojo morning.
It is. I'm excited about our topic today. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about this crazy word called stagnation.
Ugh.
Yet, it kind of that word has some weird emotional undertone to it, but we'll get to it. Before we do, did you know?
Did you know? So today's Did You Know plays into the conversation we're going to have is what is the average number of thoughts the average human being has in a day? How many thoughts do we each carry around in our subconscious brain that recycle and circulate? So you'll
All up here in one day.
in one day, 24-hour period. I don't know if they count nighttime, but I've got to read more into the study, but I have the data.
I love it. All right, so our topic today is was inspired by Jay Lewis, who was speaking at a conference. We want to give credit because Jay brought this topic to the table, Rick, that you attended. And the topic is really the 5 ways to break through business stagnation. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah. So Jay was a speaker at Mike Mulder's event, Impact, and he was awesome, and he told some cool personal stories that aligned with this topic, which we're going to share. So stagnation was the word, and I thought, man, that's not a word I use often, but if you think about the context of the word, what does it mean? It's just like I think of a dirty pond with loaded with stuff floating on the top, and who wants to
Murky water, right?
yeah, murky water. And the question really implies like swimming in that water is probably not as joyful and easy but life's like that, man. There's ups and downs. There's no constant climb. Without valleys, there's no peaks, but at some point you'll find yourself in the valley, and in the valleys where stagnation lives potentially as long as you allow it. And that's the discussion.
So I always we've talked a lot about the difference between a river and a reservoir, right? Like the river has that constant flow of running water, it's fresh water, it's clean water, and then the reservoir is kind of that fixed pond, if you will, that just sits, right? And I guess if this topic is 5 ways to break through business stagnation, how would we recognize we're at a point of stagnation in business? I think we should start there. Like, how would we recognize it?
Well, in my mind, I think it's when you recognize the gap between your goals and reality. And there's two pieces to it. One is you set goals and you're not hitting them, but the bigger indicator is you're not motivated to keep swinging. You wake up and you're less than excited. You're, in fact, potentially pessimistic or uncertain, or what's the word when you're frozen in time, like you're immobilized because
You're
of
stale. You're
fear.
stale.
Yeah, you're just not moving towards. In fact, you're again stagnating.
Yeah. And I think another context to this would be a ceiling, right? Like you've been sitting at a ceiling of achievement for a couple of months, a couple of years. And, the reality of life is you never actually sit constant. You're either getting better or things consequently would get worse if you stay at the same place for too long of a period of time. And yet comfort keeps us there. All the stuff that uh, doesn't cause us to stretch, doesn't cause us to do something hard, do something out of our comfort zone, do something uncomfortable,
Mm.
because stagnation is, in a way, it's kind of comforting.
Well, it's familiar and it's
Yeah.
safe, but it's not invigorating. And I'll just, hey, plant this. I'm going to let this seed germinate in your subconscious brain. If you want to love yourself more, do harder things,
Yeah.
tackle them. I mean, I had this big yesterday. It's funny. I'm doing yard work and I'm putting out mulch, and I noticed there's some overrun when they poured a sidewalk behind my house, and they overran the cement, and it left a big chunk of ugly cement like half into and this is an unfinished backyard, up at the lake place. So it's not like the end of the world. I lived with that for 2 years, and I just would walk past it and go, one day. And then if I'm putting out mulch, I could cover some of it, but it was so ugly, and it was probably the size of a manhole cover, for gosh sakes. And, they should have cleaned it up. And I called my builder more than once, and no one shows up after jobs are done. You know how that works. I pulled out a sledgehammer yesterday, and I was blown away. It took 10 whole minutes to chop that down, remove it, and drag it out. And it looks incredible. And why I lived with that the project stagnated me, if you will. I was stagnating in the project,
Yeah.
and the glory of just having done it, I can't tell you how. That's why I brought it up. I'm so proud. It was the silliest thing, but it's not.
Well, I think it's a good analogy, Rick. If you stay in stagnation long, it actually kind of hurts your soul a little bit. Not that that concrete hurt your soul, but
It kind of did.
it took mind share. It took up space in your being of going, man, that just drives me crazy, but it's not driving me crazy enough to go
Yeah.
do something about it until yesterday.
It did. And the thing is, every time I would see it, I guarantee you, not consciously, because consciously I could talk myself out of why it's no big deal and nobody cares. It's behind the house and it's whatever. But subconsciously, I guarantee I'm beating myself up. And now I have to process those thoughts about why I haven't, who hasn't, and then you go into the blame game and nobody wins when that happens.
Of course. All right. So the 5 ways. Number one, build a success list instead of a to-do list. Well,
Yeah.
I've heard this before, and uh, I mean, we get real comfortable building to-do list, right? Like I start my week every Sunday night. I do my 411 and I share it with my team. And in a way, it is a little bit of a to-do list of what I need to get accomplished the next week, right? Yet a success list could be a week's time frame, but it's probably a little bit bigger of a time frame than a week. Like, what do I need to accomplish successfully? Is the concept of a success list, but why is this such a great strategy to power through stagnation?
Well, I think sometimes we dilute success with to-do lists, and we dilute the ultimate optimal outcome simply by doing things that keep us busy doing. And so that's the idea. I think the idea is to take a to-do list and then emphasize the things that matter most. And this kind of goes back, and it's a nod to the one thing in Gary Keller, in that inside of that to-do list are success list things, or things that actually aren't just done but lead to greater success in pulling you up the mountain. And so that's the concept in my head, is that things on a success list, and I agree, some of them are bigger items like a long-term success, but some of them are just today. And I don't know about you, but I've done this before. You build your to-do list, and inside of it are some things that move the needle that are important, and we'll talk about what that criteria looks like in a second. But I've actually added things to my to-do list just to check them off, to feel accomplished. And so that, to me, is the first question. How many things are on your to-do list that could be outsourced, subcontracted, or not done at all, and it would be okay, especially if they're interfering with the success list items that really matter?
Look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say some people put things on their to-do list that they've already done just so they could have a checkbox.
Yeah, that's I agree. I agree.
uh,
And it
but there's
feels good to have a
psychology to
long
that.
list
Like
and
we
go, see
want
all the
to,
things I did.
yeah, we want to accomplish, right? Yet I think the breakthrough concept here is don't get caught up in the to-do list minutia. Get focused on the success list priorities.
Yeah, we'll make that big list. But then step two, in what Jay suggested, is ask a clarity question.
Yeah. So that's
So
the second strategy,
that's
right?
the second strategy. So once you've made the big list, ask a clarifying question. What would that one be?
Oh, it's the one thing, it's straight out of the one thing. What's the one thing that I could do today that makes everything equal or easier or unnecessary, right?
That's
And
right.
I probably butchered that question a little bit, but I think most people understand. It's what's the one thing I could do today that by doing that, it makes everything easier or unnecessary. And a lot of times we don't like the answer to that, Rick, but it's because it's a hard thing, right? It
It
could
probably
be,
is the hardest thing on the list.
Yeah, it goes back to the Brian Tracy book, Eat That Frog. It goes, there's so many 80/20 principles. All those things say, what's the biggest thing I could do today to create an easier life for myself going forward? And it could be lead generation. It could be making that one phone call. It could be hiring that one person. It could be a lot of simple things, but not easy things. But the concept is, do you have clarity on what it is? Like, have you asked yourself a clarifying question that gives you the light bulb, the clarity of this one thing got accomplished, my life moves forward in a good
Yeah.
way. I power through stagnation by doing this one thing.
Yeah, I mean, the 80/20 rule does speak to this opportunity for you to get clarity. And it's take the 20% of the 20% of the 20% as one thing,
Yep.
so it's what one thing. And then the key there is to create a priority list around that success list, as opposed to, again, it's a human thing to want to check boxes and feel like you're moving forward. But if you're doing the wrong things or the less impactful things, you're really just running in circles at best.
Yeah, I always like the mental game of, if I wrote down on a piece of paper 100 things I need to do today, 80 of those are probably low dollar per hour things that I just need to at some point today check off. 20 of those, i.e., the 80/20 rule, are probably higher dollar per hour activities that are going to bring me more income. Yet from the 20, how do we get it down to the one?
Yeah.
And it's just going from 20 to 5 to 1, right? Like that
Yeah.
one big thing I need to get done today.
Well, you bring up a good point, Brett. And so maybe one of the, at the end, you like to ask, what should you do? I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans now. One thing you might want to do is take your entire to-do list and out to the left of it or in the margin, right? What does that activity cost you to outsource or subcontract, or the revenue it generates when you do it? And maybe that's a guide, for how you prioritize. Because one of the questions might be, as a listener, how do I know what's more impactful? Well, assign value, do the math on the potential outcome income wise. So, what's the income potential? And then the second half of that equation, you might even want to put out to the right of that. What is the joy and the sense of excitement you get from accomplishing it? And maybe rate it 1 to 10. And then the catch is, you got to be careful. If it's a low income producing and it's a high joy, but you need to make income, reprioritize. Don't, I would love to go fishing, but I assure you, I'm not going to make a nickel fishing. And so that might be a 10. Save that for later after you've accomplished your top priorities around income producing activity.
But on a different list, Rick, that fishing might be the one thing that causes you to get balanced in life in your personal side, right? Like, so
Yeah. It's a
it's
self-care
not
moment.
always money, but the concept of this is, what are the 5 ways to break through business stagnation? So these are business strategies or money strategies, right?
You
The
got it.
third strategy is micro wins. How do we get micro wins? I think we live our life, Rick, trying to do big things. And we set big goals, and we have big dreams, and we want to accomplish big things. We've even put on training room walls for years, think big. Yet I think one of the concepts here is we got to create momentum. And
Yeah.
momentum in business is done on a micro level. It could just be that first phone call, right? Like, I know I need to prospect. How do I get that first phone call done quickly? And that's a micro win, right?
Yep. Yep. And the opposite is true too, that when you think about, quitting, most people don't wholesale quit. If you're listening to Mojo Monday, you're not a quitter. You're probably inspired, motivated, or at least you want to be inspired and motivated every day. And what happens is we micro quit, which is just you take a few minutes that could be dedicated to the one thing or things that are more relevant. And instead you repurpose that time with something less important just to buy time. And so it works in both ways. One is the quitting side, where you just defer, delay, gratification for, or you can micro win, which is like right now I'm going to take action on one thing that moves the needle one step closer. And to your point, it could be a phone call. It could be, you know, deploying social media. It could be what one thing connects the dots for more people in your sphere of influence to add value to your world.
Perfect. Well, the first three is Rick, build that success list, get a clarifying question, and then creating micro wins all kind of have this positive undertone to it. But the
Right.
fourth strategy kind of goes into a little bit of a negative undertone in the sense of what's really stopping me? Like, you got to ask yourself some tough questions too around what are the negative forces in your life that are keeping you in stagnation. And, sometimes we don't want to answer that question because we might be the answer, right? But what is
Well,
stopping us? What do you think?
Well, if you know the answer to what you need to do, like if you follow the first three steps, you recognize the micro win buried inside of the clarity question and from your success list, and you still don't move forward, I think number four is the next most important question, and that's why am I disabled or unable to move forward? What's keeping me back? Because sometimes success lives just on the other side of removing a barrier. And so maybe it's focus. Maybe it's, going into your bunker where you're not distracted. Maybe it's removing certain, again, environmental things. Maybe it's the setup. Maybe it's, we'll talk about that in a minute. What are some ways to set the stage so your subconscious brain knows you're ready to do business? So
Yeah.
you just take a hard look at what the hurdle or what's slowing you down and
I
why.
had a conversation with Gary Keller, one of our big mentors recently, and he's talking about this four-letter word, fear.
Mm,
And I feel like it's always there, right? Like everybody always has some level of fear, and some people deal with it better than others, but it's also something we don't talk about a lot. And if fear is the one thing that's really stopping you and you ignore it, you will live in stagnation.
mm.
But if you lean into fear, um, whether you attend a class, accountability, those kind of things, fear could be one of the factors that's really stopping you, and you should be aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, and most of it's made up. Most of it is not like I love my favorite affirmation of all time. If it's to be, why not me?
Yeah,
And then, but here's the important piece of that. If it's to be, why not me? The real important add-on is if it's been done before, it can be done again. And that helps me fight through the fear of uncertainty or maybe a lack of self-confidence. And it's almost like, I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of dark rooms. I'm not a fan of walking through the woods in the dark. But as soon as you illuminate where you are and where you're going, and you with a flashlight or turn on a light in a room that's dark, all of a sudden it's just like it's the same room I've always lived in. It's completely safe. I know where all the detriments are. Where's the furniture I could trip over? And so, how do you illuminate? And to me, that's the whole role modeling. If it's been done before, it can be done again. I just, and if I do what they do, I can have what they have or get what they get. And
yeah.
so that helps me again. The
I love that
subconscious
perspective,
hurdle.
Rick.
Say it again.
In a way, you're saying we need to shine a flashlight on what's stopping us.
Yeah, because
And
all of a
it
sudden
may
it's
be a
not near as
dark
daunting.
room, but shine a flashlight on what's stopping us so we can run towards it or run around it or whatever we got to do to get through it.
Well, it eliminates the uncertainty, and uncertainty is absolutely debilitating for most people.
Love it. All right. So the fifth strategy is what Jay called a decision sprint. And, you know, sprints are short bursts of energy, right? And
Hmm.
when you're sitting in stagnation, everything feels long term. Yet, if you can find a short term sprint, a decision sprint to go do something fast, immediately you're kickstarting your momentum. Immediately you're powering through towards your success list, towards your clarity. And maybe you're running at the one thing that's stopping you from getting out of stagnation, right? What do you think?
I mean, there's no greater gift for momentum than momentum. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
Things in motion tend to stay in motion. And as soon as you get that micro win or the first step that feels rewarding, it's so easy to pick up either the phone or make a call or ask good questions or engage or, once you're up and out, you're rolling. And so the key thing is to get that first step. You can't have a second step without the first step.
Yep. All right, so we've hit the five: building a success list, getting clear on the clarity question, finding those micro wins, creating that momentum, being really clear, as Rick said, shine the flashlight on what's really stopping you, and then find a way to get into sprinting around decisions here. Short bursts of I need to move. And we talked at the beginning on we always do a quiz of did you know? And Rick, your quiz today or your trivia question today was how many subconscious thoughts go through our mind on a daily basis. I want to hear the answer, but I also want you to tie it into our conversation today.
And so the tie-in is that your subconscious brain is listening and watching and waiting for you to feed it a good riddle or a challenge or an opportunity. If you leave it to its own devices, it's going to be random and it's probably going to be highly repetitive. And I read up on this just so you know. So I'm far from a scholar, but I'm closer to knowledge, the knowledge and fact than I was, a few days ago. And apparently, and there's different studies suggest between 6 and 7,000 subconscious thoughts a day, all the way up to 70,000. The one that seemed most compelling said it you average 60,000 thoughts a day. The scary part is they also report 75% of those being repetitive or 45,000 repetitive thoughts. And so, how this syncs up with where we are today in the conversation is how many of those thoughts are negative or debilitating or, thoughts that don't inspire, motivate, and require behavior or activity. And so, I would just suggest the tie in being how do you set the stage so that your subconscious brain knows you're showing up today ready to do business? And I had a few thoughts. One is set the alarm clock earlier so you have time to premeditate the right amount of just emotional energy. And so get up early enough that you're not in panic mode. Step one. Step two might be, part of the savor concept that the Miracle Morning suggests, where it's silence, affirmations, visualizations, a little bit of exercise, some reading that for inspiration, and then scribing. Write in your journal what you really want so that you pose that question to your subconscious brain. Maybe some breath work, maybe cold plunge, maybe a hot tub, maybe a quick walk outside, something to get the heart rate and your energy going in the right direction. And so now you've sort of set the stage for the five things on our list today, where you head straight to your success list and work your way down the five steps.
I
And
love this.
I can't imagine you don't win big. And if you could substitute even half of those, disabling thoughts with positive thoughts around what is capable and possible in that day with a firm commitment, your subconscious brain's going to celebrate for and with you and empower you.
I love it. So here's the big challenge, and it actually is a little bit of a direct quote from Jay Lewis. So we'll give credit where credit's due. He said, "Go do something today that your future self will thank you for tomorrow."
Man, that's powerful.
I love it.
Awesome.
Rick, what's today?
It's Mojo Monday, my friend.
It is always Mojo Monday, the best day of the week. Hope you have a good day.
Enjoy it, folks. We love you.